Have you ever thought about considering cremation upon your death? Have you ever talked about this topic with your loved ones, discussing the different options that life, and even death, offer us? And have you ever wondered what happens to the souls of cremated people? Are they destined to wander aimlessly, lost in the wind? Or perhaps there is another possibility, another destiny that awaits them beyond the veil of the unknown? These are questions that many of us ask ourselves, questions that are rooted in our deepest fears, in our most intimate hopes, in our most deeply rooted beliefs. Questions that push us to seek answers, to explore the mysteries of life and death, to question ourselves about the meaning of our passage on this earth. If you stay until the end of this video, we will take you on an extraordinary journey, a journey that will take you to the heart of Japan. Here, in an ancient Zen temple, a wise monk, guardian of 1,000-year-old wisdom, will answer these questions and many others. It will tell you about kings and samurai, about farmers and travelers, about souls who reincarnate, and about souls who ascend to heaven. He will tell you about cremation and burial, rituals and traditions, faith and hope. It will tell you about you, what you are and what you could become. So get ready to open your mind and your heart, because this journey will change you forever. But before continuing, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to be informed when we publish new content for your spiritual growth. As the sun began to set, a light breeze, like a gentle breath, caressed the leaves of the Japanese maples. The murmur of water flowing in the stream created an atmosphere of calm and contemplation. Under an ancient pine tree, whose gnarled roots intertwined with the earth like the fingers of a giant grasping the soil, sat the venerable monk Genshō, immersed in deep meditation. His hands, marked by time and practice, were placed on his knees in a zazen position, like butterfly wings resting on a flower. His eyes, although closed, seemed to peer into the infinite, as if trying to penetrate the mysteries of the universe and grasp the very essence of life. His face, lined with wrinkles, emanated an inner light that attracted like a magnet, instilling hope in those who sought it. A group of pilgrims who had come from every corner of Japan had gathered around him, forming a varied circle of souls in search of answers. There were young monks, their faces alight with a thirst for knowledge, trying to grasp the secrets of enlightenment, like bees hovering from flower to flower in search of the sweetest nectar. There were elderly farmers, their calloused hands testimony to a life dedicated to the land, who sought comfort and hope in the face of life's adversities. There were samurai, their bodies hardened by battle, seeking inner peace and release from the burden of the past, like sharp swords longing to be sheathed. There were also simple travelers, their clothes dusty from long journeys, who were looking for a meaning in their wanderings like clouds that move in the sky without a precise destination. Genshō slowly opened his eyes, as if awakening from a deep dream, and smiled benevolently at his guests. "Welcome, dear pilgrims," he said in a deep, calm voice that seemed to come from the depths of his being, like the echo of an ancient mantra. "I am here to answer your questions and share with you the wisdom of the Buddha, who like a river flows through the ages. And I will try to bring refreshment and enlightenment to all who need it. Be like thirsty sponges, ready to absorb every drop of knowledge that is offered to you." A young pilgrim, his eyes shining with curiosity and his heart full of questions, came forward and asked, "Master Genshō, what happens to the souls of people who have been cremated? I have heard that they cannot reach paradise, that the fire consumes them and scatters them in the wind like dry leaves. Is cremation an obstacle to achieving enlightenment?" Genshō listened carefully, nodding slowly. "Your question is profound and touches the roots of humanity's diverse spiritual beliefs. To fully understand this concept, we must explore the visions of different religions, like a traveler who explores distant lands to discover new horizons and enrich his knowledge. The truth, like a faceted diamond, shines in different lights, depending on the angle from which you observe it. Genshō began to tell the story of King Saul and his son Jonathan, whose bodies were burned and bones buried according to Jewish tradition. Cremation, in this case, was not seen as an obstacle to the resurrection, but as a way to honor the deceased and preserve their memory, like a seed that is planted in the earth to be reborn to a new life. The flame which consumes the body can be seen as a symbol of purification, which frees the soul from earthly impurities, like gold which is refined in fire to become purer and more precious. An elderly farmer, with a face marked by the wrinkles of time, intervened. But Master, in Christianity, we believe in the resurrection of the body. How can this happen if the body has been cremated? Doesn't the fire destroy him forever, making his return to life impossible? Isn't it a sacrilege to burn what God created? Genshō smiled and replied, in Christianity, cremation does not prevent resurrection, as God is believed to have the power to reassemble the body on Judgment Day, like a weaver retying the threads of torn fabric. What matters is faith in the immortal soul and in the promise of eternal life, which like a star shines in the firmament of hope, indicating the way to salvation. The body, after all, is only a temporary shell, a clay vessel that contains the treasure of the soul. Genshō continued to weave his tale, weaving together the different perspectives like colorful threads in a tapestry. He spoke of the Islamic vision, where burial is seen as an act of respect towards the body, a gift from the Messiah that must be returned to the earth with gratitude and humility. He told the story of how the Prophet Muhammad himself washed and wrapped the body of his beloved son Ibrahim before burying him, showing the importance of honoring the deceased even in the pain of loss. He then spoke of the Hindu conception of cremation as a rite of passage, a way to free the soul from the cycle of rebirths and allow it to merge with the Absolute, like a river that flows into the ocean, losing its individuality for become part of something bigger. He described the rituals that accompany cremation, the offerings of flowers and incense, the prayers and mantras that accompany the soul on its journey to the afterlife. Finally, he spoke about the Buddhist vision, explaining how cremation is seen as an act of compassion, which helps the soul to free itself from the body and continue its spiritual journey. The body, he said, is like a garment that we wear for a short time. When the garment is worn out, we throw it away. In the same way, when the body has reached the end of its life cycle, the soul abandons it to embark on a new path. Cremation, like a lantern illuminating the path, helps the soul find its way to liberation. The pilgrims listened raptly, their minds fascinated by the Master's words. Their questions dissolved like fog in the sun, replaced by a new understanding of life and death. They understood that death is not the end, but only a transformation, a transition from one form of existence to another. When Genshō finished speaking, a deep silence fell over the Zen garden. Only the sound of the wind in the leaves and the chirping of crickets broke the quiet. The pilgrims, one after another, bowed in gratitude and walked away, taking with them the Master's wisdom and the hope of a life after death. Some of them decided to stay, eager to deepen their meditation practice and immerse themselves in the serene atmosphere of the temple. Genshō welcomed them with a smile, inviting them to share the evening meal and participate in the tea ceremony. As the full moon rose in the sky, casting its silver light on the Zen garden, Genshō and his disciples gathered in the tea room. The Master prepared the matcha tea with slow and measured gestures, each movement a sacred ritual. Steam rose from the cup, carrying with it the aroma of green tea and the scent of incense. Genshō offered the cup to one of the young monks, who received it with both hands and raised it to his lips with respect. After taking a sip, the monk asked, "Master, I have one more question. If cremation is an act of compassion, Why do some religions prohibit it? Isn't it an act of selfishness to impose one's beliefs about death on others? Genshō smiled and replied, "Every religion has its own traditions and rituals, which have developed over the centuries based on people's beliefs and experiences. Cremation, like any other funerary practice, has a symbolic meaning that goes beyond the simple act of disposing of the body. It represents a way of conceiving life, death, and the relationship between man and the divine." In Buddhism, Genshō continued, cremation is seen as an act of compassion because it frees the soul from the body, which is considered a source of attachment and suffering. But other religions, while preferring burial, also recognize the importance of honoring the deceased and accompanying the soul on its journey to the afterlife. Genshō told the story of an old samurai who on his deathbed had asked to be cremated. His family, faithful to tradition, were against it, but in the end they respected his wish. Cremation, said Genshō, was not only an act of respect towards the deceased, but also a way to free him from the chains of the past and allow him to find peace. The conversation continued late into the night, touching on profound topics such as the nature of the soul, the meaning of life, and the mystery of death. The pilgrims listened attentively. Their minds were open and their hearts filled with gratitude for the master's teachings. At dawn, when the first rays of the sun illuminated the Zen garden, the pilgrims got up, thanked Genshō for his wisdom, and prepared to resume their journey. Some of them had found the answers they were looking for, others had discovered new questions to explore. But everyone, without exception, had received a precious gift: the awareness that death is not the end, but only a stage in the soul's journey towards enlightenment.